What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, go ahead and click the subscribe button down below and give this video a big fat thumbs up. Today I'm joined by Monty and Dan, and we're going to be having a conversation on Black men's mental health. So before we get started, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Monty, why don't you go first?
Hey, what's up? My name is Monti Washington. I'm a motivational speaker, coach, and actor, and advocate for positive masculinity and self-love, particularly with men. What's up?
Awesome. And Dan?
Hi, everyone. Oh, I jumped the gun there. Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Mangena. I'm a speaker and author from East London in the UK, but I get to hang out in Cabo, Mexico, and call that home. I'm a father. And I'm all about people being more deliberate, more intentional, and having more dominion and agency over the life that they live.
Facts.
Awesome. So tell me, guys, when it comes to Black men and mental health, where is that stigma at? How does it get started? Because it is so common. How exactly does that get started?
I would have to say upbringing, stereotypes. You know, it's a generational thing. Right now, the idea of too many people group toxic masculinity with masculinity, and they think they're one and the same. It's different things. You can be masculine and not be toxic. And I think definitely the older version of what it is to be a man, particularly what it is to be a Black man. You know what I'm saying? Because so much of what we do is imitated. So much of what we do, we set the standard for what's cool and what's manly and all this stuff. And so that stifles a lot. So anytime you express any vulnerability, anytime you talk about mental health, it's like, it's a negative. You're taught to feel like less of a man. So I think those older generations, I got friends whose dads never verbally told them they love you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're never verbally told, but the old school generation of men, I'm gonna show you by my actions. I don't need to show you. You got a roof over your head. I'm putting food on the table and all that, not understanding that people need to hear these things. They need to be told these things. They need to be comforted by this. So I think it's a generational thing of this idea of what it is to be a man and how showing any vulnerability, any sort of honesty with our feelings is considered weakness, and that becomes a stigma, and it makes you feel less of a man. Therefore, it's like, oh, my mental health, no, I'm just going to go ahead and man up.
Okay, Dan, so Monty touched that it was part of an upbringing. Can you say that may have been similar? Is that what you agree with?
I would say Monty really touched on some very important points there, particularly how ideas are passed on generationally. And when we start looking at the Black experience, and how the Black experience has been dominated by a lot of trauma-led events across. So for example, my family is from Southern Africa. My family is from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was colonialized. So, I mean, when people talk about the African-American experience and talk about how the kidnapping and slavery events that took 400 years before people started to move away from the legal stance. But as we know, even after slavery ended, it was still happening. It was happening down in the Caribbean, or it was happening by way of debt and wage slavery and still treating people with the conditions akin to slavery. As we know, the mentality, which even in people outside of the Black community, the mentality of those who were experiencing the master element of the dynamic still continues. That's where white supremacy comes from. It's where white privilege comes from. This idea that there's a dynamic based on someone being racially different that's been perpetuated for generations and not challenged. When there was the whole uproar, and I'm going to land, don't worry, but when there was the whole uproar around, what do you mean white privilege? And I haven't got white privilege and I'm poor. And yeah, but there are dynamics going on there. There are questions that you don't have to answer. There are allegations that you don't have to face just because there's risks that you don't have to go into. You're not running the risk of being lynched just for going for a jog in the wrong community, right? So we've got all of these things being permeated and happening, and then trauma can actually carry into the DNA. And then you've got the fact that nobody, and this is where I come to meet Monty, nobody actually taught us how to operate any differently to what was going on.
Okay. And that goes into, my next question is, this is something that is generational. This is something that is passed down and has been passed down from years and years and years of trauma, like Dan said. How do we start to fix it now? Because we have our Black men suffering now. And I think, though it is something that's becoming more and more known, it's still not talked about as much as it should be. You know, now it's a fact of, okay, our Black men are struggling with their mental health, but where do we come in to fix it? How do we move forward? How do we make it better?
I say we need to normalize conversations like this. We have to step up, and particularly, I think I talk a lot about self-love and positive masculinity, and I think self-love, it's a universal concept everybody needs to adopt and embrace, but it's a very female-dominated space. You don't hear a lot of men talking about self-love. A lot of the time with men, it's talking about success and attainment and achievement and competition and all these things. And I think we need to normalize creating spaces for men, for particularly Black men, to express and process our emotions without a judgmental lens on it. Just being like, yo, I feel weak. I feel weak right now. I feel down. And I'm always trying to encourage brothers. And I think if we normalize this conversation and make it much more okay to talk about these things, as well as a man, hold other men responsible for this toxic alpha culture. I do all these posts on TikTok and I'm talking about men need to process our emotions. We need more spaces. And I get the majority of the dudes are like, bro, like, this is how I feel. You're right. Because like society, this is not an argument. It's not debatable. Women have it harder than men. In a male-dominated society, y'all just have it harder. But that doesn't mean it's not hard to be a man in a male-dominated society, particularly a Black man. And oftentimes we're taught and told to man up and act like a man. And that doesn't handle the problem. Like women, when y'all go through something, y'all will have a whole coalition together. Y'all will go out for brunch. Y'all will discuss it. It'll be like the United Nations, right? Y'all will come together and y'all will break it down until you come to the solution. As men, and it's particularly as Black men, there's an element missing. We recognize there's a problem when we feel this way, and then we go straight to solution. And I know I've been like that, but the thing we have to do to deal with this stuff is the processing and the acknowledgement of those emotions, of that feeling less than, of that worry. And we normally skip that. Women will be like, I feel like this. Get the girls together. We having brunch. Let's come up with an idea. Dudes are like, I feel like this. You better man up. What you gonna do? Let's get it. And then we forget that we have to process those emotions. So I think if we normalize having men process our emotions without feeling judgmental about them, I think that's a big thing. And even if it's therapy, I'm a big advocate for therapy because I was depressed and I had suicidal tendencies. So therapy and counseling has helped me. I literally, right before I got on this call, journaling. I literally was journaling before I got on this to clear my head, to clear my insecurities, to clear all my doubt. And that has helped me be a better version of the kind of man I want to be, instead of this idea, this narrative, you got to man up and all this stuff. And I believe you do, right? Like you do need to man up after you process your emotions, after you identify this is the problem. Otherwise, we just keep ending back up in the same cycle. And that's why when a woman snaps, she snaps on the person she loves. When a man snaps, we snap on anybody who's around. And I think a big part of that is because these emotions that stay pent up for years and years, when we finally express them, they aren't in a destructive way rather than a constructive way. Because unlike women who will process those emotions and go through that whole thing I'll tell you, I cannot say nothing to my lady. When she feels away, I gotta let you feel the way. I gotta let you go through it. I know the solution. I know the solution. I know how to make you feel better.
She wants to be heard.
That's it. And that's something as men, I'm learning every day. You know what? Men need to be heard too. Just like Dan said, like we need to be heard too. And if there's, and I'll like my man Dan said, I'll land on this. And hopefully I'm not jumping one of your questions. One thing, and maybe we can dive into this deeper. Men do want to be heard. I think one of the most destructive things you can do as far as the male-female dynamic, when a man is expressing himself, because it takes a lot. Dan, you might be able to contest this. It takes a lot for us to get to that point where we're going to talk unapologetically about our feelings. It's going to take us a lot to get to that point to be like, you know what, baby? I don't know the solution right now. I don't feel like Superman right now. I don't have the answers right now. And it's making me feel less than what I think I should feel as a man. And the worst thing a woman can do is to be like, oh, you think it's hard being a man? Well, being a woman, I think that is really messed up a lot of relationships. If a man is finally going to be vulnerable, finally going to be open with his feelings, and you revert to well, it's harder for women, and you say all that stuff, we're not being heard. Our feelings aren't being acknowledged or validated. And the likelihood of us engaging in that conversation and being open and honest again has just lessened significantly.
Amen.
Yeah, I agree with all the points you made. And they actually do lead me into a few other questions. One being that you talked about therapy. So less than 2% of all therapists and doctors are African American. Do you think that could possibly play a role in why more Black men don't seek help? Is it because the person that they're going to talk about their problems doesn't look like them, and that kind of gives you that feeling of aloneness? I'm not going to answer y'all's question. You answer the question.
I'd love to jump on that if that's okay, Monty.
Yeah, do you?
So I'm all about intentionality and claiming power. And what I find often is that sometimes we have evidence that supports us holding a disempowering narrative, and we use that as an excuse. Now, I'm not saying that the excuse is not valid. So, for example, when we look at the economic impact of white privilege in the US, Black men and women, in fact, more so Black women, are at a strategic disadvantage from the off. Just like the chess game, like we're going second, but the person playing Black still wins. There are enough success stories of people who made it from nothing for us not to be able to hold the narrative. So what I love to see is people acknowledge, okay, this is the hand that I'm dealt with, but I'm still going to go for it. So yes, I believe that someone that has understood your experience will be better apt to support you in that experience. I was raised in the UK, okay? I don't understand the African American experience. And I always make sure that I voice that my understanding of what it's like to be a Black man in America is from the outside. Mm-hmm. Even simple things like, my friend Kyrie, I was on his podcast once, I was discussing this. I was like, UK, I'm from a multicultural, cosmopolitan thing. I date whoever I want to date. I don't think I would date outside of Black if I was raised in America, born and raised in America, mm-hmm. because the Black experience is very different. So yes, there is some substance to it, but I'd love to see people saying, okay, this person doesn't look like me, so they may not be able to understand everything, but let me get the ball rolling with what's available, make some moves, and maybe seek those additional pieces of support by taking what I'm learning and going into my community with what I'm learning. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm going to start calling out and saying, hey, we need more, but I'm not going to sit here not doing anything, saying we need more Black men, more Black women out here in this field. Mm-hmm. I'm going to work with what's available, and perhaps even giving an insight into my experience is going to support the Asian American or the Anglo American mm-hmm. in being better tooled and resourced to go and support other Black people too.
Yeah, that's real right there. And just therapy in general, for me, I was abused in foster homes, and I was suicidal. So like therapy for me was life-saving. And I go back to it periodically. Like I'm like what my man Dan said, like I move with intentionality. I know my power. That's why I wake up in the morning. I do all this stuff. I pray, I meditate, I get myself right. But every now and again, I do need to get back into therapy when I feel like I'm stuck on something. And we just got to destigmatize that, because it's very helpful. It's very helpful to acknowledge, you know what? I don't know why I keep making these decisions, why I keep being self-sabotaging. And that's one thing about therapy, I believe. It just helps you unpack. A good therapist, all a good therapist is someone who asks the right questions. That's it. They just ask the right questions that get you to understand what you're going through. And now I believe a great one should be able to move past the Black, white, whatever dynamic. But there is something to be said. There's a comfortability, because let's keep it real. There's a comfortability. If I'm with a therapist, if I'm with a Black male therapist, if Dan is my therapist, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little more comfortable opening up Black men and Black men talking about some of this stuff than a white woman or somebody, right? And it's just what it is. Now, I'm not saying they can't do a great job, but there is something to be said in comfortability, especially a man. Like, it is so uncomfortable for me to be unapologetically honest and vulnerable with my feelings. It is so, and I'm all about positive masculinity. I'm very open about my feelings, you know what I'm saying? And even for me, so I can't imagine Black men who almost never express the way they really feel going into that situation in that space and being open and honest. But I will stand by it for life. It is helpful. It has literally saved my life. And we need to, because it's hard. And like you said, it's different. My lady's from the UK. So the experience there is mad different from the Black experience here. Mm-hmm. And she points that out to me all the time and asks questions. Why is it? I'm like, it's just the way it is. It is different operating as a Black man in America. I cannot tell you how often I have to get off my feed, how often I have to not go online because I'm tired of seeing people like me killed, falsely in prison, all the stuff we got to go through. It is a lot, on top of trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good father, trying to be good to your community. It is a lot. and we carry a lot on our back, and going through therapy and creating more spaces where we can be open and honest about this stuff, I think it's needed to a great degree.
Absolutely. And so that actually takes me to my next question, because you mentioned earlier that, you know, as women, when we have something going on, we're calling the tribe. We're like, hey, you know, we might be up all night, bring the wine, bring everything. We need to talk and we're going to work this out. And then you mentioned that, you know, you call your friend and you're like, hey, I'm going through this. And he's like, hey, you need to man up. Do you ever call your friends out on that and say, hey, man, no, I need to talk about what I'm going through. You're my friend. I need you to listen right now.
You know, it's a different dynamic with me because I'm that guy my friends come to because I've done this work. I've done the work for years. I always say healing is the new sexy. Healing is the new sexy, but the process is ugly. I've gone through the process and it is ugly of not wanting to talk and breaking down for no reason. And now that I've gone through that process, my friends, they're starting to, and so they come to me. So like, I call my boys out, but anybody I love and I care about, I'm gonna hold you accountable because I want you to do the same thing for me. I have female friends, anything I might say that might be remotely chauvinistic or toxic. Monty, oh yeah, you're right. You know, I'm better than that. My bad. I didn't realize that. So with my friends, there are some I'm no longer friends with because they are toxic like that. There's this thing, and I don't know if we're gonna get into it. This whole alpha, beta, red pill, blue pill. There's some dumb stuff going online. Basically, it's trying to convince all men that the only way to be a real man is to be an alpha male instead of a beta male. But if you do the research, there's different levels of types of men. And oftentimes a lot of alpha males, and I identify as alpha male, a lot of alpha males are very toxic. They're not the best people to be in a relationship with. So when I go online and I share these little tidbits about, I do on TikTok, I have this thing I do daily, men's mental health tip. And it's just, you know, quick little 15 seconds, something, right? And every now and again, I will get a couple of dudes like, nah, that's beta. Nah, don't express. I'm like, okay, you go ahead and keep propagating those generational traumas and not dealing with that stuff and go on a damn killing spree. Like you keep doing that. Like it's very important that the men you're around, something as simple as this. This is how I've changed my dynamic with my boys. I tell all my boys, I love you. At first it was weird. Man, stop. I love you. Shut up. I love you. I love you, bro. I say that to all my dudes, and now it's normal. It's normalized. Ladies, I love you, girl. You the best. Oh, hot girl summer. Woo, woo, woo. Like y'all will gas each other up. And men will do that in certain spaces. If we're hooping or if we're in a gym, we're encouraging, but it's different. Women, it's part of your female dynamic. Right. And as part of my group, I'm constantly telling my boys, I love you. Yo, you want to talk about this, bro? You want to grab a drink? You want to talk about it? Oh, so what you're saying is, and that's how in my personal group, I'm doing that. My boys, you say, man, this up, I call them out. Shut up, bro, you doing something. Come scoop me up, or let's go meet here. Let's talk. And it's always better. So that's what I'm doing. So what Dan was saying, you can't look at something and just sit back. You have to actually be part of the solution. And me online, I'm sharing that. And then with my friends dynamics with my males, like we all dope dudes. The men I associate myself with, they're great men. And we hold each other accountable. We say, I love you. We process our emotions and we show a level of vulnerability. Do we give each other a hard time? Of course we do. Do we clown each other? Of course we do. There's always going to be a little bit of some little toxic stuff, you know, like we still say man up, but it's different. Like man up is like, okay, we talked about it. You know what the problem is? All right, now stop being a punk. Let's man up. Let's handle our business. Because you know what the problem is. You didn't skip over the emotions that led you to that. So that's how it is. That's what I've done and have helped my boys to be able to do. Because I think more of us need that right there.
So Dan, what about you? Do you have the dynamic with you and your friends? Do y'all come together and talk about your problems, or what does that look like for you?
So with me, Dove, so I was diagnosed with Asperger's at the age of 27. So for my entire life, I was autistic and didn't know.
Yeah.
So I actually spent, want to call it, when we start going to preschool and all that stuff, without really having many friends, because I didn't know what I didn't know about the fact that there was disconnects happening.
Right.
So my social settings growing up was cousins who had no choice. My younger sister's friends sometimes felt sorry for me and would let me tag along, right? My mum's friends from church, their kids that kind of had to put up with me because they had no choice, basically. But then when I was, the game changed for me. When I was 15, one summer I went to go and work in a movie house just for something to do. I actually taught myself to make computers 2 years before, so I didn't go to do the job for the money. I was just going to have something to do because I love movies. Movies are everything that I loved. And I met two guys there that are my two best friends to this day. A white guy called Jamie and a black guy called Nathan. To this day, they're my brothers, okay? we have always had that dynamic because of Nathan. Nathan was always the one that like, no, we're going to talk about this. No, we're going to do this. No, we're going to do that. So we've had this I love you thing. When one of us is going through something, we'll go in and check him out. When I was going through my dark times, they were there for me. When we were both his best men at Nathan's wedding, we're both the best men at his wedding. And we've just got this thing where his family is my family, and that's just what it is. We're integrated. So coming into getting past my diagnosis and understanding, I just need to have this and this in order to learn how to develop relationships. That also coincided with me going much deeper into my spiritual journey. So the communities that I was moving around was my yoga community, was my meditation community. So I've actually got every Friday, there's an hour-long Zoom call, there's a Zoom room that's open, and there's a group of us guys, we hop in, we just talk it out, we meditate together, and that's what we do. Now, I'm the only black guy on that particular call, but still.
But I mean, that might say a lot with black men in the community, and to her point, the fact that, because it's when I'm in different groups like that, not on a regular basis, but anytime I get invited, I do. I'm one of the few brothers that are on that on the same thing, though.
That's the thing. I mean, when I was first going, so I'm doing a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. I've been going to his retreats for many years, and I remember when I first went, I was like, there was me, my friend Michelle, she's a black woman. We were like the only two black people in the whole room. Now it's changed, it's growing, and there's more diversity. But even in terms of these practices, these kinds of communities that are supportive for the kind of dynamic that Monti, for example, is instituting into his groups, isn't really happening.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm blessed that I've had two friends who are like my friends, aside from family and stuff, where we have done the whole I love you thing. That's what we do. Like, I love you, bro. What's going on? You know? My son's only 5 months old, but Nathan's got 2 boys. And we're instituting that same thing. Like from young, we're getting them hot on recognizing that there's a healthy way to do this.
Yeah.
You know, with my nephews, and that's what we're doing with my nephews. Same thing. You know, even the young ones at like 7 and 8 years old. I love you. How you doing? Are you looking after mummy? Are you looking after you? Like all my nephews and nieces, I'm the uncle that they can come and talk to no matter what they're going through, no matter what's going on. Even if you don't want to talk to mum, you don't want to talk to dad, come and talk to me. Because I firmly believe that Monti going out there and speaking to his friends, me going out there and impacting one person at a time, that's where the change is going to happen. And then empowering them to go out and do the same. That I love you is going to slip out one time when they're talking to one of their other friends. I love you. What are you talking about? I love you.
Right.
And it's going to be a positive virus.
and you know, on that note, though, I think part of the thing I've been able to get my friends and get other men, like I get hit up on TikTok all the time with dudes like, yo, bro, thank you. I need to hear that. Yo, man, I appreciate your pain. There's always some toxic dudes. That's beta, this, that. No, you a simp, you a punk. I don't care. I'm like, I go on their page. I'm like, okay, you a bum. Anyways, but you a bum, bro. Like that's something you just said. That this lets me know you got some toxic trauma. You got to handle. You got to heal. But one thing I figure out a way is you got to adapt. Because it is hard, especially a lot of men, especially black men, particularly here in America. We're all so, even though it's not the truth, we all act so alpha. We all act like we can't be phased. You know what I'm saying? And when I see that, I'm just like, yo, it's all right. Let's let that guard down. Because it is hard being a black man in America. And you do feel like you got to have your guard up. But like, what I'm figuring out a way is to normalize these things. One thing I'm doing is like, I'm rewriting the narrative. Like some people like, stop saying man up. Don't act like a man. No, that's too much for some people because there is a bit of, there's some good in that. You know what I'm saying? When the way I use it now, no, man up. You can't act like a man. But what kind of man are you acting like, bro? In which way are you manning up? Manning up means I identify the problem. I process those feelings in a constructive way. I don't ignore them. I don't move past them. That's not manning up. That's doing yourself a disservice. There's a difference. Like when I call man up, like when, you know, I'm teaching, okay, oh man up. I'm like, this is what I mean by man up. Oh, you feel this way? Because the way I man up is this. Dang, I'm an actor as well. And it was this big part I wanted to get and it broke my heart. Somebody else got it. And I was just feeling because I knew it was for me. And I felt the way. It really put me in a dark place and I was so close. It was one of those life-changing roles. The way I man up, I got in my car, I drive, and I'm crying my butt off. I'm in my car, I'm processing out. I don't, you know, unlike women, a lot of dudes, we don't want to just have a cry session in a group. But, you know, I got close friends I'll do one-on-one with, but like, I'll let my lady know, hey, man, I'm going to go for a drive. You do what you got to do. I just get in my car, I play my music, I'm just crying, I'm letting all that out because it's this process. It's these expectations I've had that I didn't live up to, and now I'm like beating myself up. And then I go park, I chill, and I'm like, I release that. I release those emotions. I release that anxiety. I release that fear. And now it's time for me to man up. What can you do better next time to get a different result? How can you get better from this? What's the lesson you learned from this particular thing? And I come back in my house and my lady knows I'm a different man because that's my version of manning up. And I've done that with my boy. I picked my boy up, driven him. He's an actor out here. He was having a hard time. I was like, all right, let's do this. Process it. Let him cry. Let that out. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for crying. Fellas, stop apologizing for expressing those emotions. Excuse me. Let that shit out. Let it out. Go ahead. Okay, you done? You got it off your chest? We good? All right, now let's problem solve. What can we do better? What have we learned? What can we take away from this experience to make us better men? That's what I've learned. So in this process of normalizing these conversations and trying to rewrite the narrative, you have to keep a little bit of the familiar with people, you know what I'm saying? And kind of work with them on that. But yeah, it's a space and it's much needed in conversations like these. We just need to have hundreds and thousands more so that people are like, oh, it is all right for me to be vulnerable. It doesn't make me weak.
Absolutely.
I'd love to just add that I feel we lose sight of the things that are standing in the way of that. And one of the biggest is shame. Shame deriving from these narratives that these outdated modes and narratives and constructs about what it is to be a man. These outdated constructs about what it means to feel.
Yeah.
Instead of allowing ourselves to create new norms, new ideologies about how we want to show up and how we want to communicate and how we want to. It may not be crying. Maybe it's just, let's go and have a run and just get it out.
Yep.
Let's go hit the bag and just let it out. Because it's the energy, because energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form. So the energy of expectation that got built out needs to get out. It didn't get out through the event, so we need to find the way to express that. And if it's crying, lose the shame about it being crying. It's just the energy moving. That's it.
I love that. That's real.
That's it.
I do too. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything that you guys want to add, particularly to other Black men who may be struggling with their mental health and a little hesitant about getting help, or maybe they don't know where to start? Is there any message you want to give to them?
I would definitely say, remember that we're human. And this is one thing that I always come back to in a lot of my work. The 4-step model I teach, the 4-step listen, is about coming back to recognizing nobody's going to be switched on all the time. We're not going to get every role, right? We're not going to hit every jump shot. We're not going to be switched on every day. We're not going to be happy every day. Physical reality, 3-dimensional reality, is a construct of polarity and contrast. It's going to be, there's no light without shadow, there's no shadow without light. So being okay with that, and being okay with how we see ourselves, allowing that to lead the narratives about who we are and how we're showing up, rather than other people's expectations. My suicide, my whole dance with suicide, it wasn't even on necessarily how I felt about myself. It was what I was telling myself about what I thought other people were thinking about me.
Yeah.
So when we let go of those narratives and come back home, there's a lot of free resources now. And I would say, for a moment, if you're just getting off the ground, lose the thing about that it has to be specifically for Black people. Just get some help. Look at heart math. Look at some kind of meditation, some kind of breath work to get the ball rolling, and then start getting intentional about searching out, because there are people out there. Monty shared, he's out on TikTok every day. Get on it. There is everywhere, in every social media platform, there's someone out there giving you something to get the ball rolling. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When we actually start moving towards it, I do believe that God starts to bring the rest of the way, bring what we're looking for the rest of the way to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a lot. I'll say this. I'll say two things. First, lose this idea of what it is to be a man. Create your own sense, especially now living in a gender fluid society and all this stuff. Like, I identify obviously as a Black, cisgender, heterosexual alpha male. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. That's what I identify as. And whatever stereotypes come with that, I don't care about that. It's about who I identify with. Create your own narrative. As long as it's healthy. Like, that's what it's about. And when I speak, I always say we don't look like our story. Like, looking at me now as the man I am today, you don't know I was abused in hospital by 3 different women, by 3 different mothers. You know what I'm saying? We don't look like our story because we're greater than our story. And everybody, if we can lose this narrative, if we can change this belief system that our experiences form us, and instead our experiences don't form us, they inform us. Everything you experience is merely information. What matters is what you do with that information, how you digest and ingest that information. That's going to determine what are you going to become? Because I come from abuse. I come from a mother who was a prostitute and a drug addict. I come from being abused in foster homes. I come from that. But if my experience is for me, how could I be a positive example? It's not. It's information. And what I did with that information is I realized I'm hurt. I'm broken. I need to heal. I need to get therapy. I need to pray. I need to meditate. I realized that. And let me tell y'all this. Finding this healing for men, particularly for Black men, on this journey of self-love, it's like taking a shower. You got to do it every day, because every day you don't, the more you stink and the less people want to be around you. It's that simple.
Don't be stinky.
Some of us out there is funky. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I got to say. And, I hope anybody out there watching, I hope you can take something good away from this, because, we need it. We need to normalize these conversations and 100%. Create more spaces to talk about stuff like this.
100%.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. You guys came in seriously, and I feel like you gave so much to our viewers. You guys really did, and I appreciate that so much. I really
got it, though.
Like you said, this conversation definitely needs to happen. It needs to happen more. And as a Black woman, I, of course, support Black men. We love our Black men, and we want you guys to be healthy. Whatever we can do to help is what we're going to do. So thank you guys for helping me to hopefully help more Black men. I really, really appreciate
you. Got
it.
You
guys coming
Thank you, Doug, for having us.
Thank you.
All right.
Of course. All right, you guys have a lovely day.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye. Apologies for my tardiness. I thought I'd lost the link, and then I found it again. Where's the link? And the thing is, Dawn sent it to me like twice. I was like, oh my God, where's the link?
Real.
We've got the link. All is well. We can breathe again.
The link was found.
We have the link.